Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 V Premium decks that you expect to see at Worlds if you guys are a World finalist for the V Premium format. These are the 5 must-test decks for you to ensure that you are doing well at the World Finals this upcoming weekend. If you guys need any coaching for the next upcoming seasons like Springfest and BRO, hit me up on Metafy. My link is in the bottom right hand corner. Feel free to book a session and we can get started to help you for the next season. The first deck to make sure you are 100% prepared for the V Premium Worlds format is Maiden. As much as people say that Colossus is banned, yes, it makes the deck less unfair, but the deck is still very, very strong. The deck itself does everything every other deck does, but easier because of this card. Enterana in conjunction with the Gearcat. The deck itself is just so strong, has multi-attack, hand advantage engine, guard restricting grade 2s, it has filter, it has high shield value in Uluru, it essentially has everything. This deck is a must test and there are better optimized lists now because with the removal of Colossus, you're able to open up 2 more slots, whether that is an extra Gear Dog or maybe more Lost Break Dragons. The deck becomes more consistent in what it does. So if you are testing for V Premium Worlds, this is definitely a deck that, to be honest, you may consider bringing. Like, as much as the mirror match sucks, there are other decks that, you know, people will expect to play, which I'll cover in the remainder of this video, but this deck actually makes the other decks look pretty weak. This deck actually does everything every other deck does, but better. So yeah, if you are considering a Worlds pick, this is definitely a Worlds pick that, to be honest, yeah, like, why not, right? Why not? The next deck is Anj. Now, with the introduction of Miyatoa, the promo card, the grade 1, this deck actually sees a lot of play. Miyatoa makes this deck much better. This is not the list for it because it doesn't have the PR, but essentially what it does is that Anj can extend multi-attacks instead of just relying on Tira. But also, because you're generating a lot of soul from Finesses, Liselots, Quail, you're able to spam Miyatoa and essentially get a pretty fat hand. Not only that, this deck actually generates a lot of early game advantage. So you drop a Liselot, you drop an Aqua on turn 2, you bounce the Liselot, and then you pretty much create a full field out of nothing, right? And the deck on grade 2 actually hits pretty decent numbers. Because you have Seria, you're able to filter through your deck and she becomes a 15k beat stick. Similarly with Aqua, she's also 15. But the real MVP is Sedna. Sedna makes it so that one of your columns becomes 28 or 23. These are really annoying numbers in the early game, especially if you're going first, you're hitting 23 on an 8, your opponent has to drop 20k shield to guard. So this is definitely a deck to look out for. I know Orange has been looking at this deck, been playing this deck for a while now, and I actually think this deck is very strong. So yes, this is one of the decks that I think a fair few people will bring. There are people who are testing already, and yeah, this deck is very strong. Make sure you test against this deck. The next one, Luard. Luard has been hit by the ban list too many times, has been removed off the ban list too many times. It now has Charon back. The deck is just very strong. In the previous format where Colossus was, you know, viable, this deck actually posed a threat. And the reason why is that sometimes you can damage choke people. So what that means is essentially because your front row gets crit, your opponent, well, you can essentially make it so that, you know, you're swinging for 1 damage and then you make sure that your rear guards are hitting for lethal. And if your opponent decides to guard at 3 and you hit a crit, then one of your rear guards becomes 3 crit. So essentially you're hitting lethal as well. And you can start to, like, how should I say, constrain your opponent's resources because they don't have a lot of counterblast to work with. So Luard itself, you know, previously has always like been really good, you know, has advantage engine. It has now Ildana, which allows you to search through your deck so that you're not, you know, grade stuck. You can search for your green Luards, you can search for your grade 2s to ride. Like, the deck is just solid. this deck is probably one of the top 3 decks that I would consider bringing to Worlds. It's a very, very strong deck. It had a huge impact in the Colossus season, so I don't see it changing at all. So yes, if you guys are going to Worlds, make sure you test against Luard. Luard is a very, very strong deck. Get on it. Just get on it. The next deck, Leopold. Leopold, the representation of Leopold wasn't actually that dominating, but the deck itself is very, very strong. It can create 2 XLs on a turn, and then pretty much come the second turn, you go through your deck, you compress your deck, you have ways to return triggers back to deck, and essentially you hit a double front and then your opponent's just gonsters. So Leopold itself is very strong. This build doesn't run the Culture Gorilla, which essentially says after, I think, your Vanguard attacks or after a unit attacks, restand all your 25k rearguards and retire your opponent's board. That is very impactful. Now, not only just the restand bit, but the fact that you retire your opponent's whole board, that is massive, especially if you're playing against Steam Maiden. Your opponent loses all their cats, and that's where the power actually comes from. So you can definitely see this deck at Worlds. Whether this gets to, the top tables, we'll see, but I actually do think this is one of the best decks in V Premium, especially after the hit to the Colossus for Steam Maiden. And I think when we were discussing about V Premium in the previous format, I think this was ranked as number 2, probably side by side with Luard as well. So I don't see that changing. This deck is very, very strong. Make sure you guys test against this deck. It is very strong for the Worlds format. And then finally, Davos. Now, a lot of people might be thinking, wait, Derek, there's other decks as well. I actually do think Davos is one of the strongest decks in V Premium as a whole. Obviously, Steam Maiden overshadows it. Davos actually performed very well against Luard. So I actually think this may rank a little bit higher than Luard. It has a very good matchup into Ange, has multi-attack, has very big numbers, has draw power, has Pursuit Assault. This card is insane. Has Narissas, has essentially a way to put everything into Soul, draw a bunch of cards to refund the units on the board, has Retire in Davos itself. Like, the deck is just really good. It also has Adelaide as a promo, as an attack extender. The deck is very, very strong. So this deck, as much as people don't give it credit for, I think I played this deck in top 8 against Andrew Nguyen in Melbourne. This deck is very strong, and it can beat Steam Maiden back in the Colossus era. So you can see that this deck actually gets buffed because of the Colossus being nerfed for Steam Maiden. So we definitely will see a lot of Davos, and those people who finesse in Aquaforce will bring Davos to Worlds. So yes, definitely test against this deck. And yeah, those are the top 5 V Premium decks to test for Worlds. There are some other notables like Shahara, Jewel Knights as well. Jewel Knights is very strong. There are, a few players who have played Jewel Knights in the BCS, regional parts of the season, and you do see some tops there. But yeah, like those are just some other notables as well. But these are the top 5 decks you must test against for Worlds. If you guys like this video, hit a like, comment down below what decks you're expecting to see on the World stream, or if you're a World finalist, what you're expecting to see at Worlds. Hit a subscribe on the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.